To most people, this just looks like a dollhouse, but it is a house of beautiful memories of 5 generations, starting with my grandparents, Mary and Joseph Baran. My grandparents had 5 girls. The first one transitioned as an infant. My mom was the oldest of the 4 remaining girls. Her name was Anna, but most people just called her Anne. Then came my Aunt Marge, whose real name is Amanda, my Aunt Mary, and my Aunt Penny, whose real name is Rose. My mom married my dad, Frank Kovaleski, and out of that marriage came my sister Dolores, and then 3.5 years later, I was born. My mom and dad lived in a smaller house on the farm, which was given to each daughter to start their married life until they could afford to buy a home of their own. My sister was actually born in that house on the farm, and we moved to Michigan from Pennsylvania when I was just 2 years of age. My father transitioned when I was 9 years old. We then moved back to Pennsylvania for a year, but my mom could not find work in this rural area. So after 1 year of school, we returned to Michigan. During that 1 year, I went to a one-room schoolhouse with each row of chairs being a different grade. They did not have enough chairs for me, so they advanced me to the next grade. The farm was the most fantastic place for my sister, cousins, and I to live or visit, with horses, heifers, chickens, a large apple orchard, cornfields, wheat fields, peaches, plums, and cherries for all of us to just go outside and pick. Back in those days, there was no such thing as grabbing a piece of fruit or vegetable and running into the house to wash them. We ate them right off the tree or plant, and none of us ever got sick. We had so much fun playing in the hayloft or going to the farmer's market with our grandfather. When my grandfather was younger, it was also a dairy farm. I even remember when we had pigs. Sundays were always special, as everyone gathered together for Grandma's chicken soup and huge dinner. One of my strongest memories is waking up every morning to the smell of coffee and Grandma frying donuts as the aromas streamed up the staircase. Another memory as a child was playing with tons of buttons when Grandma would pull out the sewing machine drawer and let me play with them on the kitchen floor. Because there was no bathroom and we had to use an outhouse, so when it came to bathing, Grandma would prop us up on the pantry sink to give us a sponge bath, and in the summer, she would use the wash tub she used for washing clothes with a scrub board. She would fill it with cold water and let the sun warm it up, and we were bathed as children in it. To honor my grandma and my best friend Jeannie, I included a sewing room for the 2 of them. In the boys' room, you will see a pair of nunchucks, and those are in memory of my grandson. I still have his. Tony transitioned at age 15. He also played a wind instrument in junior and senior high school, so that is why there is an instrument sitting on the bed also. The judo suit laying on the bed is in memory of Robin, who took judo, and both Robin and Tony loved martial arts. The caged rabbits are a memory of little rabbits or chicks our parents got for my sister and I when we were young. Tony, Robin, and Angie's pictures are actually in the music room. My sister took piano lessons, and I could play a little, but I really was never good at it. I did play the violin, actually a viola, but they are almost the same thing, except the viola is an octave lower, so that is why it is sitting in the case next to the chair and music stand. Once my grandparents did get an indoor bathroom, of course there were no showers back then. I remember being very young and I got dressed to get into the bathtub, but before I could get into it, 2 tiny mice ran across my feet, and of course I screamed like crazy. In the green bedroom, there is my mom and dad's wedding picture over the closest bed. The small pic is of me and at 1 year of age and my sister at 3.5, and the other bigger picture is of my grandparents. The kitchen was the hub of my grandparents' home, with everyone sitting around the table talking as us kids played. Sunday was a special day when everyone got together and enjoyed Grandma's chicken soup and dinner. It was time for family, so no work on the farm was done on that day. We had ice boxes, not refrigerators back then, so the iceman would come and deliver blocks of ice to keep things cold. The thongs he used to pick up the ice was scary looking to us kids. The living room was different from the parlor in my grandparents' house, and we normally used the parlor to sit around, except on Sundays when people would be either in the kitchen or living room. Of course, there was no such thing as a TV back then. In the dollhouse, next to the chest set in the living room, is the Bible. There is also a writing desk under the chair case, a brass chandelier, fireplace with all the tools necessary, and the china cabinet filled with a complete set of china, except for the pieces on the kitchen table. My grandparents did not have a baby's room during my lifetime, but I included one because I always referred to Robin as baby girl. She used to get so embarrassed because no matter how old she was, I always continued to call her that. Plus, in our family, I was the baby, as my sister was older. We did have a stream on my grandparents' property, but it was on the other side of the road. Gardening tools were, of course, used by my grandfather, as well as a large tractor he got. When we were still young, he used horses to do all the plowing, so I've included some of the items in memory of him. The neighbors, the Hughes family, had a horse. It was purchased from a family that abused the horse terribly with newspapers. But being 9 or 10 years at that time, I decided I would outsmart the horse and ride it down to the old mailbox, which was quite a distance from the house, and not let the horse see the paper. Well, horses are smarter than what any 9 or 10-year-old child can even believe. And even though I was careful, he heard the paper. He took off running and ran right in and plowed down a tent that my sister and I had made out of a blanket over a couple chairs in the front yard of the house. Because I grew up without a father, I looked to my grandparents as being an ideal family. Mom, dad, daughters, and grandchildren, and a home filled with love and togetherness. I hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane with me and with the aid of the Dollhouse.